I understand some comments were made yesterday, and I watched the clip that Mr. Carlson produced as he referred to pregnant women in the military. I'll remind everyone that his opinion, which he has a right to, is based off of actually 0 days of service in the armed forces. Let me offer you my opinion. My opinion is based off of 28 years of actual service in the military, 28 years in the Marine Corps, in combat operations out at sea and in garrison. And so he was talking specifically about pregnant women in the armed forces today and how it makes us less lethal and less fit and less ready. Let me tell you where he's wrong. Those decisions were made by medical professionals, by commanders, and our civilian leadership that allows for women to have more time with their children, to recuperate, to get fit and ready, to take that time that's necessary that our medical professionals know is needed, which actually makes us a more lethal and ready and fit force, ready to fight the wars of today and the wars of tomorrow.
Let us understand, North Vietnam cannot defeat or humiliate the United States. Only Americans can do that.
Shalom, guten tag, ni hao, everybody. Welcome to episode 24 of The Moral Minority. Title, as always, yet to be determined. As always, I am your not-so-humble correspondent, Marcel, and this is my co-host, Dan. Say hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan. Could you say, as always, 3 to 5 more times?
Well, as always, I tend to repeat myself because, as always, I still have autism. So repetition is the spice of life. So, Dan, we spent time curating the show notes because I started compiling the show notes really as soon as we stopped recording episode 23. I got some interesting feedback on episode 23. One listener who is near and dear to me, he played the section on Cuckoo when we talked about it. He listened to it and then he thought to himself, there's no way, all these black people really believe this Cuckoo stuff. So he played, and these are in exact words, he played it in front of a room of 15 other black people.
I don't believe that this happened, but go ahead.
He did. He played it. At his work. He played the clip to see how many of you guys believe in or know or any of this. And of them, 2 of them, especially the younger, I think 2 of the younger ones, had literally never even heard of the Cuckoo story. And then the others had, and none of them believed in it. Although a few of them said they knew people who believed in it. And so then I got a nice little chew out for engaging in generalizations. Now, I should be, even though I thought I had said, and then I checked back, and indeed I did say, not all, not even most, but a significant number. But then it became a back and forth as to, well, a lot of people believe a lot of weird things. But I think what I'm trying to say here is, as far as the Cuckoo story goes, it's not that every black person believes it, but it seems like a lot of black people know at least one person who believes it.
I would say what it is not every white person believes in, KKK stuff. But if you do, and you say that in a room, it's going to be met with, I'm never speaking to you again. It's a thing that puts you on the fringes in the real sense of that, in the sense of you are now ostracized. The Cuckoo stuff is the kind of thing where if you believe it, it's like, it's like your buddy who's a Jehovah's Witness. It's like, he has some kooky things, but I don't really care. It's not treated the same. So it's in a sense, it is not, even though it is on the edges, it's not considered fringe. It's just considered a kooky, indulgence that we allow some people to believe.
Like, imagine if every white person knew, almost every white person knew at least one Mormon. It would be like that, okay, that says something about the distribution of Mormons in the society. Our actual topic. So we spent a lot of time curating these topics. I had to trim down 8 of them because they were just no longer timely. Actually, there's a bit of timely news now on the Suez Canal, which is great because it's something that has nothing to do with politics necessarily. Right? It's simply, this is what I think news is supposed to be. I feel like if I lived in a sane world, the kind of world that I want to live in, actually, yes, if we lived in Ancapistan, our ideal situation, this would be the kind of thing we read in the newspaper. It wouldn't be politicians or whatever. It would just be multi-boat pileups in the Suez Canal, right? Our corporate overlords, their shipping has been interrupted, and now a lot of people are going to talk about this catastrophe. Instead, we get, well, you've listened to our podcast, so you know the kind of stuff we have to hear about instead.
It's a rare news event in that it is an event.
Yes. So
it's not like someone said, someone thought, this is an interpretation of something. It's literally a boat is stuck. Everyone agrees it's a boat. It's stuck. It's in this place. There's no spin.
Yep.
There's not even really any room for interpretation. It's just, there's a boat. It's stuck.
There's not much commentary.
It's a developing situation. It's like when a hurricane happens or there's some sort of a disaster. You just put the camera on it. You have a guy stand there, and he just tells you what the camera's looking at. He goes, "There's a boat. It's stuck. Back to you." And they go, "Oh, the boat's stuck." It's very odd. And then you see why the news does not do this as news, because it's boring.
Yes, because even we just now immediately shifted from object level to meta level analysis, right? Yeah. Once we just said the boat's stuck, there's nothing really for us to talk. Let's talk about how much we hate the media again. Actually, so there's more interesting stuff happening now. Now that the boat has been stuck long enough, society has regressed back 300 years because boats are now going around the Cape of Good Hope in Africa. Like you're some kind of maritime, explorer from the 17th century or something to get to Europe. Pretty funny. Again, there's almost nothing for me to riff here. But again, in Ancapistan, this is, I think, the greatest pitch for libertarianism. That's my pitch to everybody, is in our ideal society, all news would just be like this. It would just be interesting things happening in like capital markets somewhere.
Oh yeah, a newspaper would be on a 3x5 card.
Yeah, exactly. It would be a 3x5 card.
There was a boat stuck in the Suez Canal. There was a hurricane over here. Elon Musk died or whatever. Then you'd be like, oh, I know everything. I know all the news.
Yeah. I mean, could you imagine being able to have, imagine a world where there's a newspaper and it simply just gets more esoteric the deeper you read. Like the first page, it's just a photo of the crashed ship. And then when you open up to page 2, then there's just background on it. And it's not until you get to page 50 that you start getting financials and the prices and stuff. But every person could, so to speak, read to their level. And so how much do you care about this boat? It would be just a nicer place to be.
It gets deeper and deeper. Yeah.
Right. So one person's like, yeah, I read to, people would brag about on average how many pages they read into this news. But
we're calling this, the newspaper is all the headlines. Page 2 is the summary of the bullet points. Yeah. Page 3 for each story is the analysis or the implications or whatever. And then it starts getting deeper and deeper until you're into
you see Dan over there. I hear Dan reads all the way to page 45 sometimes. Wow, really? It's it's just sometimes they need to track the prices of corn futures or something like that.
We've also
as if any American would ever get corn from the Suez Canal. But
so Marcel, what's in the real news? Forget about this boat. All right, Bodie McBoatface is stuck.
I kind of want to talk about the boat. I kind of want to not talk about politics. This is just great.
This is Marcel's thing that he likes to do, which is he corners me for 3 hours with a list of topics that he wants to talk about. Then we don't talk about them, and then he says, "Now you have to come back for another one because we got to get to all these topics."
Dan, you are also free to introduce topics, but it seems like you're one of those people who's the true artist has achieved perfection, not when there's nothing left to add, but nothing left to take away, because you take away all the things I want to talk about. So let's get to our first actual topic.
I've said this before, but I've always admired people. I don't admire hard work and dedication. I admire the Chevy Chases. I admire the Jamarcus Russells, the Norm MacDonalds, the people who just show up.
Those sound like made up names.
Give me my mic, or in Jamarcus Russell's case, give me my football. I know I didn't watch any tape. No, I don't know what the plays are, but I'm just pure talent. I'm just here. Just put the mic in front of me, and I go.
Our first article is about the Techxodus. So this article was written in December 2020. That's how long we've had it in the docket. It's been shunting from Clown World to Clown World section for 5 episodes at this point. Well, actually, December 2020. Oh, I'm sorry. 1 episode I've had for a while. So the idea of this article, since I'm not going to read it out loud because Dan is glaring at me saying, Marcel, I have a family. Please set me free. There is, because of COVID, the beginnings of an intellectual capital flight from San Francisco. Because, well, if everybody's working remotely, there's no reason to live in a city that despises you. Why tech workers move to California? I wish I could say I don't understand. Unfortunately, I do understand. There was a time before this. It wasn't always this way. It wasn't always this nightmare. And so technology centers built up in California before it went off the deep end. But once it went off the deep end, these people were kind of stuck, because the thing about tech workers, it's one of those industries where you really need to be around other tech workers. Not all industries are like this, although, most are, but generally, technology is one of them where there's a lot of positive externality from proximity to other people doing the same thing. But with COVID, you're starting to see a trickle of them leaving, And this has made a lot of San Franciscans really upset because they're saying, wow, you extracted all this wealth. You've taken all these things from us San Franciscans. And now once you're done with us, you're just going to toss a tenner on the nightstand and walk out the door. Is that it? Is that how you're going to use us? And this article goes into very nicely, frankly, far nicer than I would ever be, says that doesn't make any sense. Tech workers do not extract value from San Francisco. There's not some kind of it's not like we have some kind of deposit of code underneath the city and we've all built our drills like there will be blood and just sucked it all out. And then now we're done. It was like, we drink your milkshake and then we go, right? We didn't extract the value. We are the value. Again, he says this way more nicely than I ever would, right? He talks about just extraction is inaccurate. It's, human capital, positive externalities. And if we move, then as long as we continue to cluster with each other, it'll be the same. This is why basically any city just needs to promise us a living space. Again, it's as if this man is from another world. This is a dispatch from non-clown world where these are the kinds of disputes I need to read about of just, again, in Ancapistan, what's the news going to be? A bunch of tech workers just migrated in a giant migrant caravan from San Francisco to Dallas, Texas. Why? They cited disagreements with local government. Well, there won't be that in Ancapistan, but you get the idea, right?
Yeah.
No insane stuff. Just the movements of our corporate overlords and their serfs. Dan, did you look at this article since I linked it to you? Or
Yeah, so it shows this kind of that mentality of that all wealth somehow comes from people who don't have it. So in this case of you're just extracting all this value from us. It has it exactly backwards as always, where it's like they think that just by existing and by, I don't even know what, just by being there, we're providing all this value. That's why the tech companies came here, because we provided them with value. And then they made money and left and took the money. When in reality, as you said, it has nothing to do with that. And it's proven by the fact that when they leave, is the place poorer than it was when they got there?
No.
Presumably, it would be much poorer. The tax receipts would be lower. The incomes would be lower. There'd be all this devastation. Because when you drink the milkshake, there's no milkshake left. But how is it that I show up, and when I leave, you have more milkshake, but you're saying I drank your milkshake?
Well, in this case, you are the milkshake, right?
I am the milkshake.
You are the milkshake, but importantly, you become more milkshake by being around other milkshakes.
Yes.
And so the wealth that is extracted from San Francisco is simply the presence of other wealth extractors.
And of course, there's never any attempt to say, hey, these people are leaving. There's no salesmanship of when you tell a company, if you're a big customer for a company and you tell them, yeah, this year we're not going to renew our contract, we're going in a different direction. They're not going to go, how dare you? But they're going to say, what can we do to help make you happy, to keep you here, whatever, because it's a mutually beneficial arrangement. Whereas they see it the exact opposite, which is oh, you're going to leave? Then I'm going to hector you until you stay.
Yeah.
Which is not a great strategy. And it proves the point of well, this is why we're leaving. It's like you're up with your wife, and instead of solving any of her problems that you've been fighting about, she just screams at you and says, how dare you, you're leaving me, and I made you the man you are. And you're like, this is why I'm going, because because you're this type of person, and this is how you handle these situations, because you're a demon and you just will let me, I've known no peace since I've met you. That's why I'm leaving. And you're just validating my choice by reacting in this way. I'm surprised they didn't try to hit them with some sort of tax on the way out the door.
If it weren't for the Commerce Clause, they probably would. So there were two paragraphs. I'm a very fast reader. I'm just gonna read them out loud because I learned something new, and I always love learning something new because I never really would have thought of it. As has now been well established, the Bay Area's landed gentry class, which is in complete political control of the region and has been for decades, did almost everything in its power to block construction as demand to live in the region skyrocketed. This artificially ballooned real estate value, along with the cost of rent, to historic national highs. While the technology industry generates tremendous sums of money for the region in tax revenue, the number of actual tech workers has been relatively small. In San Francisco, we were never anything close to